I'm here at Computex 2026 and today I'm checking out LG Display's latest panel. No, you put me off, I saw you and I was like, oh, yeah, you sneak up. And Tim and Vincent are sneaking up on me. I might keep this in, you know. No, you're all good, you're all good. And today I'm at LG Display's headquarters to check out the latest panel developments and panel news. They've got some really exciting new panels on show here. They've got the world's first True Black 1000 certified monitor panel here. We've got some details on different and new coatings that they're introducing, new panel sizes, new resolutions, new Tandem WOLED options, loads of stuff to take you through today. So let's go and check all of that out right now. We only had limited time available at LG Display's headquarters today, so I've come back to the hotel at Computex so I can tell you all of the rest of the details. So let's start with the world's first True Black 1000 monitor panel. Now this was the prototype panel that they had on display. It's 27 inches in size, it's got a 540Hz refresh rate, but the most important thing is it's got a True Black 1000 certification. That includes a peak brightness of a whopping 2000 nits, and full screen 100% APL of 560 nits. So this panel looked super bright, the highlights were really impressive, and it just had an amazing pop to the image and just showcased just how bright these WOLED panels can get. Now this prototype has the traditional RGB layout. Of course, they've kept the white subpixel in the design to maximize the brightness, and it's a proof of concept at this stage, subject to demand and interest by their customers, the monitor manufacturers, in time. Hopefully we'll see some demand from those manufacturers at some point and a later adoption of this panel. It would be really great to see further enhancements in monitor brightness, although we know there's going to be challenges there around heat production, heat dissipation, and balancing the risks of image retention and burn-in against brightness. There's always a challenge on these smaller monitor-sized panels compared with larger TVs, one of the reasons that they've lagged behind that part of the market. But clearly LG Display have showcased the fact that they can produce a panel that reaches the True Black 1000 certification, so let's hope that comes to market sooner rather than later. I'm pretty certain that we're not going to see anything this year in the way of monitors. Perhaps we'll see something next year if there's demand from their customers. Let's move on now to talk about some of their other Tandem WOLED panels that they had on the show. They of course had their 39-inch ultra-wide that we know has already been adopted by a couple of manufacturers now. They've got the RGB layout version of that has been adopted by LG Electronics in their 39GX950B, and also their new RGB-stripe version that Dell have recently adopted that was showcased this week at Computex as well. So they've got the 39-inch model, they've got of course the 32-inch Tandem WOLED panels, the RGB version, and again the RGB stripe version. Those have been adopted quite widely now. You've got models from LG Electronics, from Gigabyte that were announced this week, from Asus that were announced this week. Those 32-inch panels have gone into mass production now, so we would expect to see monitors released during September, October kind of time later this year. They also had the 27-inch 4K panel with the RGB stripe. That was on show again here, and that too has now gone into mass production, so similar timescales for release of any monitors featuring that. We've of course seen Asus's model earlier in the year that was announced at CES, and we've also seen a second model from ASRock this week which also features that panel. So those are coming to market, they're in mass production now. There was also the 24.5-inch sized Tandem WOLED panel that has been used and adopted by Asus's latest 24.5-inch esports gaming monitor. That has got a really impressive spec. It's got a 1080p native resolution, 540Hz native refresh rate, and it's the first monitor panel that we know of that's gone actually into production now that features True Black 600 certification. So obviously True Black 1000 is coming at some point, they've proven they can get there, but True Black 600 is another step forward in brightness compared with the monitors that have been released over the last year or so, which have only really just started to reach the True Black 500 tier. So the True Black 600 certification here includes a 1700 nits peak brightness, 700 nits for 10% APL, and 390 nits for full screen white and for SDR brightness. So some really decent improvements there actually in brightness, even with the True Black 600 panel. LG Display tell us that there's no plans for an RGB stripe version of this panel at the moment, although they could produce one if there was demand from their customers. But really at the moment, the priority for those kind of multimedia gaming panels is on the maximum performance and maximum brightness, and you're only really going to get that if you keep the white subpixel in the design. So time will tell whether there's demand from other clients, other customers of theirs for an RGB stripe version, but right now there's no plans. It's just the RGWB version that ASUS have adopted for now, and I'm sure others will look at some point too. In terms of new and upcoming panels, LG Display did tell us that they've got plans to update their 45-inch ultra-wide 5K 2K panel, give that a Tandem WOLED refresh. The timelines are quite far out for that at the moment. They're not expecting that panel to go into production until Q2 2027, so I guess this time next year is probably going to be about right, but they do have plans to refresh their 45-inch panel. They've actually got two 45-inch versions. They've got the 5K 2K resolution version, 5120 by 2160. That will continue to have a 165 Hz refresh rate and a dual mode function for 330 Hz. That model will get the Tandem WOLED refresh, which will bring with it improvements to brightness, and that too will be certified under the True Black 600 tier, or it's expected to be, and that will offer brightness specs similar to the 24.5-inch model, so 1700 nits peak, 390 nits full screen white and SDR. So that panel is coming at some point next year. They've also got the lower resolution version of the 45-inch panel, 3440 by 1440. That will continue to be a 240 Hz refresh rate panel, but again, that will get a Tandem WOLED refresh, True Black 600 certification. Again, similar timescales, Q2 2027 for development of that panel. So don't expect any monitors to be announced and certainly released using that panel until the second half of next year at best. LG Display did say that they will continue to offer both matte and glossy versions of their panels depending on the demands and the requirements of their customers, the monitor manufacturers of course. They did actually have a demo set up to showcase their new and improved glossy screen coating as well, which looks really interesting. Now this is a coating that has been used in the TV space, and they're looking to roll this out as an option for their customers in the monitor market as well. So they had a demo set up with the traditional AGLR, the anti-glare coating version, the current glossy version, so that's marketed as Asus True Black, Gigabyte Real Black, and so on. They had that side by side with the new glossy coating, which includes an additional anti-reflective layer, which did actually a really good job of suppressing reflections. It remains a zero haze finish, so super clear and super sharp, just like the existing glossy, but the AR layer really helps improve the reflections. It cuts down on a lot of the mirror-like reflections. Hopefully you can make some of that out with the video footage here, showing reflections of some of the other screens that were elsewhere in the room and a light that we were shining on the screen. You can see that it still remains clear and sharp, but it helps eliminate reflections. So that looks like a really promising new coating that we hope will be adopted in the glossy WOLED space moving forward. It does seem to have a very minor trade-off in terms of the black depth. If you shine a very bright light on the screen, it goes ever so slightly purple. It doesn't retain the same level as black as the current full glossy solution, let's call it, the existing True Black Glossy, Real Black Glossy. But it really does have to be a very bright light. We're not talking about QD-OLED level black rays or purple tint from older generations. We're talking about a very minor difference under very extreme circumstances. But that does seem to be caused by, it seems, the additional AR layer that's been added to the panel. But in my opinion, there doesn't seem to be any negative trade-offs beyond that very, very minor difference. It just seems to be a great addition to the glossy coating, and I think that will be a really good balance in the monitor market if it's adopted. They did have a fourth new coating that was on display as well that they just simply labelled as Fighter. I'm not sure what the name really represents, but we're told that this is aimed more at entry-level, low-cost panel introductions. So it still gives a glossy finish, but it does have a minor 3% haze, and it looked a little bit more like the older generation glossy, as it were. But we're told that this will have a slightly lower price point from a panel point of view, so it could be adopted in lower cost glossy solutions in the future potentially. We're most interested by that new glossy solution with the anti-reflective coating. I think that looks a really nice addition to their panel lineup. Another new panel that was on display was their 27-inch 5K panel that was announced recently via a press release. Now this has got a 5120 by 2880 resolution, around a 220 ppi pixel density and a 120 Hz refresh rate. We asked and we've confirmed that at the moment there's no plans for that to include a dual mode function, so it seems to be aimed more at professional and office type uses rather than gaming screens. Because of the high pixel density, that panel does have just an RGB stripe subpixel layout. It's also got a true black 400 certification, so a lower brightness tier because of the removal of the white subpixel, 1000 nits peak brightness, 250 nits full screen. So that panel is in prototype form at the moment. Again, it's subject to demand and adoption by their customers, the monitor manufacturers, but they've proved that they can produce a panel of that pixel density and resolution. Time will tell whether it's adopted somewhere in the market. They also had a demo set up that was showcasing their panel-driven BFI or black frame insertion function. So this used to be a feature on much older TV panels that they produced. It was abandoned for some reason at one point, and in recent years monitor manufacturers have been cobbling together a BFI type solution at a scalar level. But by bringing it back at a panel level, LG Display are now offering a solution which will eliminate the additional input lag that is caused by existing scalar-based solutions and allow for adjustable higher brightness in BFI mode. You can't do that with a scalar-based solution. You've got a fixed panel brightness, but there is the option with the panel-based version to drive a higher brightness when in BFI mode, allowing for better overall performance in that situation. Now, it will still be limited to half the native refresh rate of the panel. So in the example they had here, it was a 540 Hz 1440p panel, the current panel that is available at the moment. It will be available in that situation up to 270 Hz maximum. But of course, by using the BFI mode at a 50-50 duty cycle, that can improve the motion clarity and give you 540 Hz equivalent motion clarity. They did say that they are able to adjust the duty cycle range, so you could have shorter or longer duty cycles if you want than the standard 50-50, but it does seem like 50-50 would be the typical normal option. So the real benefits here by implementing BFI at the panel level will be the elimination of the input lag caused by scalar-based solutions and the ability to go brighter in BFI mode. So that looks like it's an interesting solution. It might actually be coming to market much sooner than you might expect. Apparently there are monitor manufacturers who have already started to adopt this in upcoming models. We don't know who it is at this stage. We could start to see improved BFI functions from some of the monitor manufacturers later this year, as early as Q3, Q4 we're told. To finish up, we also talked to them about their updated DFR solution. Now this was hinted at in a recent press release. They talked about DFR 2.0. DFR is their dual mode function that's available on monitor panels at the moment. They call it Dynamic Frequency and Resolution, DFR, typically called dual mode in the market. This is what allows you to increase your refresh rate when you lower your resolution. So at the moment, you could have a 4K native panel, 240 Hz, that can drop down to 1080p, but double your refresh rate up to 480 Hz. Now they tell us that there are 2 developments going on in this area that will improve this function in the future. DFR 1.0, as they called it, will introduce the ability to offer a triple mode refresh rate support. So you could have a 4K native panel, 240 Hz, an additional mode that does 1440p at 360 Hz, and then the normal 1080p at 480 Hz. So that would offer you a mode somewhere in the middle. That's not going to be introduced for a while though. It's in development, but it's likely not to be available until 2028, we're told. So maybe 18 months or so away at best. The other development that's going on at the same time and with similar timescales for 2028 is DFR 2.0. This will offer the ability to boost your refresh rate by up to 4 times. So you could have, let's say, a hypothetical 250 Hz native panel that could be boosted by 4 times up to 1000 Hz when using the dual mode function. If you had a 540 Hz panel, they are going to limit the maximum refresh rate available from DFR 2.0 to 1000 Hz at this time. So you'd only be able to basically double that refresh rate, but it's still going to offer the chance to get up to really high refresh rates. 1000 Hz OLED is coming, it just might take a little while to get there. So DFR 2.0, DFR 1.0, they're both going through development at the moment, scheduled for potential release on panels in 2028. Something to look forward to, and I think that looks a promising technology, particularly if it helps drive higher and higher refresh rates in the market to go along with the improvements that they're clearly making with panel brightness. True Black 600 going on at the moment, True Black 1000 coming up later on as well. So there you go, that's all of the latest news from LG Display from this year's Computex 2026 event. Lots of exciting stuff going on. Don't forget that if you want to stay up to date on all of the Computex news that's going on, all our coverage from various monitor manufacturers and everything that we've seen at the event, check out our Computex 2026 tracker that's linked in the description below. That's on our website. Don't forget to hit subscribe as well to stay bang up to date. Thank you for watching this one. We'll catch you next time.